right, this is Dan Meehan for Fight News Australia, and what better way to start the year off than with UFC welterweight Jack Della Maddalena, who now takes on late replacement Pete Rodriguez at UFC 270 on January 23rd Australian time. First of all, Jack, Happy New Year. You've presumably spent the holiday season in training camp, but were you able to celebrate a little over Christmas and New Year's?
Yeah, I had a good Christmas and New Year's. Was lucky enough that Christmas and New Year's both fell on the weekend. So yeah, pretty much trained during the week, had a little bit of rest over those 2 weekends. And yeah, just basically stayed training over the time and ready to fight.
Yep. Do you have to sit out Christmas lunch? Like how much of a stretch is it for you to make 170?
I sort of prepped up to Christmas, did like cut a little bit of the calories down preparing for my Christmas lunch. So I didn't miss out on Christmas. I enjoyed a big lunch and just got straight back onto the program after.
Yeah, beautiful. Well played. So you're over in the US at the moment. Obviously over there to fight at UFC 270. But what's it like over there at the moment? Are there any sort of protocols for international arrivals these days, or are you pretty much free to do as you please?
No, we were free just to get in. Basically, we arrived in LA, drove to Vegas, and we're just spending a week in Vegas using the pier, getting our last finishing touches in it with training. Getting our last finishing touches of training, and then Monday we just drive to LA and get in. Sweet.
All right. So, last time we caught up, you were preparing to face Ange Looser on the Contender Series, and of course, you had an impressive performance on the night, coming out with the UFC contract. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience on the Contender Series?
Yeah, Contender. It was a real awesome experience. Just being able to, get over to Vegas, have a fight in the Apex, which was a cool experience. Having the no crowd. The way the Contender Series was set up, it was very there was no real big like announcements or anything. It was really just get in there, no crowd, fight, get out, which was cool. It was good to experience it that way. And obviously having the 3 rounds was also another good experience. I've never really gone 3 rounds before, so felt pretty good in the 3 rounds. It was good to get the 3 rounds under the belt, and yeah, it was all around a positive experience for us.
Yep, I was actually going to ask about that. It was obviously the first time you go on the distance, as you mentioned there. So, how did you feel you got on, and sort of what do you take away from a fight like that?
Yeah, I was stoked. It was cool to obviously the finish would have been ideal, but looking back, I think it worked out perfectly. Got to get 3 rounds in, get a bit of really have a well-rounded mixed martial arts fight, which is perfect.
Yeah, and you played it all off pretty well post-fight. On the broadcast, you sort of looked pretty laid back. You're sort of playing around with your rugby ball and just taking it all in stride.
Yeah.
But you must have been pretty nervous, right?
After the fight?
Yeah.
Nah, to be honest, the number one goal was to get the win. So we got the win. And to be honest, thinking about the fight, I don't think I could have done much more to get a contract. I feel like I showed everything. I thought it was a pretty competitive fight, so I was pretty confident I would get the contract, or at least I was happy with how things played out. And if it wasn't enough, then we just have to get back to it. But the win was number one. Win is most important, and the contract was just obviously a cherry on top, dream come true.
So yeah, since it is obviously a dream come true for any fighter, really. So how did it feel to have your name read out at the end of it all?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was just cherry on top. It was a lot of training, a lot of hard fights, a lot of hard work put into it, and then to finally just get that contract, it was like, oh yeah, perfect. We can keep this train going, continue to do what we're doing because it's obviously working, and just see where we can go from here.
Yep, and Dana White himself expressed how highly he thinks of you and how he has high hopes. And so how does that sort of sit with you when the UFC president sort of singles you out like that? Were you taken aback by that, or does it sort of spur you on even more? So how does it sit?
Yeah, it felt cool. It was awesome knowing that probably my next fight he'll probably be watching, which is, exactly what I want. I want to put on good performances. I feel like I will put on good performances. So yeah, the more eyes, I guess, the better, and I can just do what I do.
Yep, and a lot was obviously said and written about the 0-2 start to your pro career. And you spoke last time out about the goal being 10 fights in a row from there. So now that you've ticked that off, have you set a new marker for yourself?
Haven't set anything, but I think we're probably going to try and get that 10 wins again. It worked last time. Obviously, the competition's high, but I believe we set the blueprint to make it happen, and we know how to do it. So I'm definitely going to try and get 10 wins.
Beautiful.
And
And
set a new goal.
absolutely. And as mentioned off the top, you're making your full UFC debut this time at UFC 270. Now that you have a contract, presumably it has 2 or 3 fights on it. Does it feel like you can kind of just get to work now, like unlike the Contender Series, which is kind of a do or die sort of situation?
Yeah, to be honest, I never really looked at the Contender Series like a do or die situation. I felt like at the end of the day, it was just another fight, and no matter what, you've just got to take your next fight as it is and work as hard as you can to make sure you get the W and then on to the next. But yeah, it's
And
definitely something I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping to have a big year of fights in the UFC.
absolutely. And the new opponent, of course, is Pete Rodriguez. Now he's got a 4-0 record, and admittedly, was a pretty tough guy to research on my end last night. But how much do you know about him?
Yeah, I think by the looks of him, he's a very fresh fighter. He's coming in and he's good hands, quite powerful with his hands. And yeah, I think he's going to be very excited. He's going to come and bring the fight from the get-go. So, but yeah, the game plan doesn't really change. It's hit and not get hit and move around and try and put the pace on and not give my opponent an inch. So yeah, it should be a good fight. It has the makings to be a good fight.
Absolutely. And your original opponent, Wally Alves, pardon me, was unfortunately had to pull out due to injury. When did you find out about that, and sort of how disruptive is that to sort of switch opponents and styles at the back end of a camp?
Yeah, we found out actually just the day before we were leaving to come to make the journey from Perth to LA. So it was obviously we had to just make sure that we would get an opponent. They did promise they would get us an opponent, so we just committed. Of course, Wally to me, it was going to be he felt like he was the perfect debut fight. Someone who'd been in the UFC for some time, bit of a veteran, but obviously wasn't meant to be. But yeah, you can't let things that you can't control affect you. You've just got to keep pushing forward. Same game plan, same results we're chasing.
Yeah, and UFC 270 is obviously a bumper card to start off the year for the UFC. You're probably used to being in the main event at this point, but do you normally sort of hang around to watch after your fight?
Yeah, I'll definitely hang around and watch. Yeah, how could you not? I'm a big fan of the sport, and there's some pretty banging fights on. So yeah, I'll definitely be hanging around and enjoying the fights after.
All right, so let's get some predictions for the fights. Then we'll do that. We'll do the title fights. We got Fig versus Moreno 3, and Cyril Gane versus Francis Ngannou. Who do you think is going to get up?
I think Moreno will get up in that fight. I think he might get him with maybe a third round submission. If I was to predict, I reckon I'm gonna pick Francis. I think Francis might get him out of there in the first round.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good. And of course, your teammate at Scrappy and the now eternal lightweight champion Jack Becker is preparing for another title defense on Feb 26th. So, imagine you've seen a fair bit of him this camp, or who have been your main sparring partners?
Yeah, Jack's definitely one of the main sparring partners. My brother Josh is always one of the big, but we've got a lot of talented guys back at Scrappy MMA. We're super lucky. All the guys in our room are awesome fighters. Jack actually just arrived in Las Vegas 2 nights ago, so we've got some good training in with him at the PI, and I'm very, very lucky to train at Scrappy MMA.
And what's it like at the PI? Like, I guess how does it compare? Like, all the facilities and stuff that are available. What's it like to see like a kid in a candy store running around there?
Yeah, it is. Definitely. It's the perfect facility for MMA gym. There's insane strength and conditioning area, crazy MMA area, and then the recovery section. There's nutritionists and massage therapists, so you can just whatever you need. They really go out of their way to provide for you. So it's yeah, it's a real awesome spot to be able to train.
Unreal. Before I let you go, have you got any sponsors or anyone you'd like to shout out? I'll hand the reins over to you.
Oh, it's just Scrappy MMA, best gym in my thoughts, Australia and the world. So shout outs.
Unreal. There you have it. Well, Jack, thank you so much for stopping by, and all the best at UFC 270.
Thanks for having me, Dan.